Chelsea have reportedly had an £8 million bid rejected by Sunderland for Granit Xhaka, and Sunderland didn't just say no. They reportedly viewed the bid as unacceptable and insist that their captain is not for sale. But the fee is not the most interesting part of this story, because the real story is that Granit Xhaka appears willing to tear up Chelsea's recruitment rulebook to bring in one midfielder he already trusts. Sunderland rejected the bid immediately because they signed him from Bayer Leverkusen for around £13 million with add-ons capable of taking it even higher, but they still have 2 years of his contract left on the deal. And look, they're going to be playing, like I said, European football next season. They want to try and keep one of their prized assets. Now, look, he's helped him to finish 7th, I think, in the Premier League. They've qualified for European football. It's a no-brainer. They want to retain one of their better players in the squad in terms of Sunderland. So from Sunderland's point of view, £8 million was never going to represent any sort of serious value for their captain, or even scratch the surface on what they potentially want to recruit from this player. He's a leader. He's one of the most experienced midfielders. You could even argue to say that he went on to be one of the most impressive players last season in the Premier League. So I get why Sunderland are going to dig their heels in and try and keep him at all fronts. They want to keep him. So there is also reports, though, that Granit Xhaka would be interested, linking back up with Xabi Alonso again for another roll of the dice, another hopefully domestic European success for Granit Xhaka. Now, the club are sort of nowhere near agreement at this stage. I think it's clear to see 8 million ain't going to cut it. You would expect maybe, which again, according to Fabrizio Romano, that Granit Xhaka, Chelsea, they both want to move. Chelsea are going to have to come in with something very, very improved in terms of a bid, possible wage structures to get this deal done, which I don't think the wages is a massive problem. Now, of course, the question is whether Chelsea return with a more realistic offer, because according to Sunderland, their public stance is that he ain't going anywhere, and they're trying to end this story immediately. Now, the attraction is obvious when you look at Alonso's time at Bayer Leverkusen. He had Granit Xhaka playing some amazing football in the Bundesliga, went unbeaten all season. Very, very unlucky, if you remember, in European. But look, Granit Xhaka is not just simply another central midfielder that comes in if he does sign for Chelsea. He's going to be the reference point for Xabi Alonso's midfield. He really is. His controlled rhythm of possession. He's one of the best in terms of what he does there. He's helped the centre-backs play through that pressure as well at times, especially at Sunderland last season. And he can switch the point of attack and consistently communicate, where teammates need to be in terms of the structure and the setup of a decent squad. So Alonso's football demands a lot of that sort of positional discipline a lot of the time. The way that Alonso wants to rotate the players, and in terms of the tactics, the wing-backs are going to be so high up. The attacking midfielders occupy the half spaces. The centre-backs are going to be stepping forward. So that freedom only works when somebody underneath the ball understands when to accelerate the game and when to calm it down. And I think you're going to need someone like Xabi Alonso to have the understanding of Granit Xhaka being able to do that. He already understands the instructions that Xabi Alonso is going to want from him from his time at Bayer Leverkusen. So I think that matters, because look, Xabi Alonso is coming into Chelsea, another summer of squad change with a lot of upheaval and players potentially leaving, new players coming in, but he's also going to have a limited time. I think our first pre-season game is the end of next month, the 28th of July. Now, he's not going to have a full complement of squad at that point, because there will be players still in the World Cup that will be on extended leave after the World Cup, so he's not going to get the full pre-season that he would like with his squad. And look, they've never played in his structure before. They've never played under Xabi Alonso. So it's going to take them time to get a good understanding of how he wants them to play. So Xhaka coming in effectively will become almost an additionary coach on the field for Xabi Alonso. Chelsea are not just buying a player for future resale value. They'd be buying him because of his technical clarity from day one. He understands what Alonso is going to want. So to me, that makes perfect sense to bring him in. Now, of course, the ages could be a massive factor in terms of, do we get this deal done? We haven't really signed that many players over 30 in a while, let's be honest. It's been a lot of kids that have come through the door at Chelsea. So I do think, for me, if we do get Granit Xhaka, one of the key things I'm looking forward to seeing is it bringing out Caicedo's strengths even more, because one of the key things that Caicedo likes to do, he likes to cover ground, win duels, protect transition, carry the ball away from pressure. He likes to do all of those things, but he should not be responsible for organising every single phase of possession on his own at the football club. And sometimes I feel like he is the sort of orchestrator, the anchor of that in our midfield. And I think when Granit Xhaka, if we do sign him, comes in, he's going to be probably playing slightly deeper, maybe towards the left a little bit, the ball from the back three, directing play. Caicedo could then operate more freedom, more sort of shackles off, jumping towards the ball, protecting the half spaces created by the attacking wing backs. So I think in possession, Chelsea could become from a 4-2, 3-2 build-up with Xhaka and Caicedo as the controlling pair in that midfield. And I think if you get that, you are bringing a lot more balance into it, because even out of possession, Caicedo becomes the aggressive ball-winning sort of midfielder that you like to see, that we know he can do that. But then Xhaka comes in, he'll be the one that can protect the shape and tells the players around him when and when not to press for the ball. And I think that, again, is going to be so crucial. And I'm going to say this, actually, because I know people in the comments are probably going to sort of say something about this, but it won't be the fastest midfield, but it'll be one of the most intelligent and balanced midfields in the Premier League if we can bring in a Granit Xhaka, someone with Premier League experience, proven in a European competition and domestically as well. And look, we have to remember, if we get this deal done, there is still a lot of complications around some of our other players. I'm talking Dario Sugo, Romeo Lavia, but the key one being Enzo Fernandez, because Real Madrid continue to be linked with Enzo Fernandez, and Chelsea have been reported to value him around £120 million. So Xhaka should not be described as the direct Enzo replacement at all. I think for me personally, there are completely different parts of their career in terms of where they are, but they also offer and bring different qualities to the team. So I don't think you could almost treat it as a like for like in terms of if Enzo does leave and go to Real Madrid, you're not going to get the same like for like qualities that you would from Granit Xhaka if he comes in. I think with Enzo, he gives Chelsea those sort of progressive passing, that final third involvement, and Granit Xhaka comes in and I think he would bring you that sort of level of control, the authority, the immediate knowledge about how Xabi Alonso wants to set up his team and that structure, which I think is going to be massive for Chelsea next season. He's going to bring you all of those things in abundance. He's going to be able to get that from day one. And that, for me, if it means Enzo Fernandez has to go, then so be it. But I think there's also a massive concern whether Chelsea I hope this isn't the case, but I don't want Chelsea to think that they're signing Granit Xhaka as a replacement for Enzo or Caicedo. It could be that they actually want him to come in as a support mechanism. Maybe Enzo stays and Caicedo stays. Maybe that is it. Maybe you're bringing in a player that's a short-term bridging gap if Enzo does go, and then you want to bring in another midfielder and you have someone like Granit Xhaka with the experience. But if Enzo does leave, look, Chelsea would still, for me, if I'm being honest, they would need to still bring in another prime age midfielder with creativity, ball progression. Last week, if we do sell Trevor Chalobah, I still think we need to bring in another prime age, top level midfielder. I think Granit Xhaka is the bridge to that. But if Enzo goes, we have to bring in someone else as well. We can't rely on just Xhaka doing that role, because I don't think they have the same qualities about them and the same attributes. So look, I mean, this is, for me, the one key interesting part around all of this story is, since the ownership change, Chelsea have prioritized a lot of young players, a lot of South Americans, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, players that just don't really fit how we need to play now in terms of what we need right now. In the future, yes, offering them long contracts, securing future value for the players, great. But signing a midfielder who turns 34 in September is completely the opposite of that. It's flipped the whole table upside down on that model of signing young players and young recruitment. So that to me suggests that Alonso has got real influence in this Chelsea squad, because if he didn't, we've seen it before, Maresca, Pochettino, Potter, they've all asked for players and they haven't gotten those players. So I think for me, it appears that the club need experience, they need leadership and players that can be trusted, rather than just accepting a squad made basically from, high value potential upgrades that we might get through, data and AI that we're currently using. So for me, if this is the case that Xabi Alonso has got a voice around the table in terms of recruitment, to me, that's a massive positive development in terms of what we've all wanted as Chelsea fans, because we all want to see the right players come through. We've all been screaming about experience, leaders. We've all been talking about what we need as a club. And a young squad doesn't just need the talent, but it does need the players who can manage difficult moments in games. Granit Xhaka ticks that box for me. We need someone who can slow down a match when it matters, when you're 2-1 up and you're under the cosh. You need someone who's going to be able to challenge the teammates, who's going to step up in that dressing room and understand also what the manager wants. Because next season, we do not have time to carry passengers or carry players that need to be nurtured for 6 months, because we've looked lost on the pitch for the last 2-3 seasons. Chelsea look short of voices. We look like we don't have leaders in our camp. For me, look, Granit Xhaka does not fit like a 5-year solution, but he could improve Chelsea over the next 2 seasons and accelerate the development of every single person around him, especially in the midfield. Because, look, I mean, we know Asugo, Lavia haven't really hit the ground running for us yet. So I think those 2 players need to come in pre-season and have the best pre-season of their lives in order to hopefully gain opportunities in the squad next season. But look, there are obvious risks to this as well. He's 33, Granit Xhaka, limited resale value, so we know that the club love to cash in when they can. Sunderland have European football. They don't need to sell him. They don't need to. If anything, they want to retain him. So I think those are the key things for me that I'm looking at this deal thinking we have to go in with a sensible offer if we're going to go back in for him, because they're not going to just... he's got 2 years left on his contract. So, they could demand a fee that reflects that in his importance rather than his age. He's got 2 years left. If they don't want to sell him, he stays there for 2 years. So Chelsea must avoid, in my opinion, don't put your pride to the side. You need a sensible leader in our team. Go and offer 20 million, 25 million. Go and offer what you need to. Go and offer 20 million. That's what I think they'll take from him. I think they will take 20 million. Because, look, some fans are going to say Chelsea are paying a very substantial fee, wages for a player that's approaching 34. But we also need to strengthen in other positions. I get that. But you also need to have the engine. They call it the engine room for a reason. You need to have your midfield solidified. The cogs have to be working together. For me, they have to go back in with a substantial offer. They have to, because if Xabi Alonso is saying he wants this player, this would be a massive thing for the sporting directors. If they can get this one done, it will show that they're listening to the manager. Because if he wants to install his system immediately, he has to bring in the key players that he wants into this football club. So for me, look, wrap this up here. My verdict is that the idea makes more sense than it doesn't make sense. Chelsea need experience. They need midfield control. Alonso does need players who he can translate his tactical instructions to on the pitch. Granit Xhaka is going to be able to do that for him. He provides all 3 of those things. But what I will say is I don't want to pay over the odds for this signing. So the sporting directors, Chelsea, they have to move disciplined in terms of what they want to offer Sunderland. Let's not go over the top and offer 35, 40 million. He's not that type of player. But if we can get him for 20 million, why not? Because this should be a signing that complements Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez if he stays, not a reason to sell Enzo Fernandez without a proper replacement coming in. This should be the bridge for that signing in 2 years if Enzo does want to leave then. So look, Chelsea can't go over the top with this deal. They don't want to get it inflated to something stupid. If the deal can be done around 15, 20 million pounds, 100%, I would support that as a Chelsea fan because I think that's the right thing. If Sunderland start demanding significantly more, look, Chelsea, we're not going to be held ransom. So Chelsea should walk away, find another experienced controller for the midfield and just walk away from it. It isn't that big of a deal. Would you sign Granit Xhaka for Chelsea? Let me know what you think. And what is the maximum fee you think we should pay? 10 million, 15 million, or would you just walk away completely? Put your answers in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to From the Shed End to all the latest stuff that's going to be happening over the transfer window. Turn your notifications on for the next Chelsea update. We'll be back soon.